Hello, hello. We're going to go ahead and do a quick Milky Way tutorial. So this is going to be stage 1, and we've already got a layer of epoxy on the cup. Already popped some bubbles. Don't mind my messy turner. It's been through a lot. And I am just going to put some chunky pastel and opal glitter on the cup. And I haven't put that aside quite yet, but then after it turns overnight, we will do some updates. So Milky Way tumblers, if you have never made one, I think get their name not because they look like a Milky Way, but because they tend to have kind of a marbled look. Sometimes they are made with glitter and with some micas and pigments, and sometimes they're just made with micas and pigments, but they're really fun and they're really pretty. So I'm going to put some opal glitter on the bottom. Oops, I just got it on my hand. Just got the epoxy on my hand, so that's awesome. Just because the bottom's kind of trying to not go to the edge here. So I'm just going to throw it on. Doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to cover it with some other things. So this is just a base layer. So I'm just putting, this is called, I'm using a lot of different glitter today. This is called Opal Crush. I have a very fond affection for opal glitter, and so I tend to buy a lot of it even when I already have some that may look just like it. See, it doesn't even really matter that I just did that. I'm using a sheet of paper just to catch my extra glitter. And again, we're not going to perfectly nail the bottom, but get as close as possible. Didn't even get it on there that time. I'm using the kind of a smaller cut because sometimes the bottom is a little more difficult to cover with chunky glitter, and it doesn't really need to be chunky because we're going to, again, finish it a different way. So we don't really need it to be, it's not an ombre. So I hope everybody's keeping busy while they're home a lot more. This is actually going to be a birthday present for my niece, and so she and I are both the same age, and we grew up a little bit more like sisters, and so we're both about to turn an age that's kind of a marker, so I figured it would be a fun gift for her. And I love to do these, so it would also be fun for me. Let me get this epoxy off my hand real quick. Just using a little alcohol. If you ever get epoxy on yourself, which is almost inevitable, 91% alcohol will help for sure, and then acetone is always a sure fix. So I'm going to kind of follow the line of my mistake when it comes back around. And that's a different mistake. And I'm just going to, it doesn't have to be in a swirl pattern, but that's kind of what I'm going to do. We're essentially just going to cover it with random glitter. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect coverage. That's one of the reasons why I always flat paint my cups white, because then if, you know, something's peeking through, it's just going to be white. It's not not going to be stainless steel looking. It's a beautiful glitter. I've never used it before. Alright, so I'm going to catch the rest of that glitter. Some of it did not quite make my paper here. I'm going to put it back in this cup. I am making a giant mess. I don't know if you guys can see that. And I'm just going to put some of that on there. It makes no difference. We're going to use lots of different colors. This has a little bit of epoxy on it from the bottom. I don't want to waste anything, so I'm just going to let that tip over on there. Okay. And I think I'm actually going to put this on top of that because a lot of the challenge I faced was because there was epoxy on that. Okay, so the next one, I'm going to kind of do a little bit of kind of chunky glitter and a little bit of not as chunky glitter. So I'm going to do them sort of next to each other. So this one is called Seashells. It's beautiful. It's like a peachy, almost like a peachy light pink. Can't seem to be ready when it comes around. The last time I made one like this was at Christmas time, and it was my first one, and I couldn't stop looking at it when it was finished. I almost didn't want to give it away. Now I kind of go down this swirl pattern, but you don't have to. You can kind of do whatever you want. That's what I love about these, is they're kind of messy, but also really elegant looking. So the first one I did was mostly opals and like light pinks. And so I reached out to my niece's husband today and I said, hey, what colors do you think she would want? And he said right now she really likes pinks. And I was thinking, okay, well, I could do the same thing. And I was like, do you think she would want maybe a mixture of pastel pink and like maybe a darker pink, because I have some really cool darker pink pigments. And he said, yeah, a mixture would be cool. So I was like, awesome. So that's what I'm gonna do. So that's why I'm kind of starting with these as a base. This next color is called, so the first one is from Posh Glitter, Opal Crush. Seashells is from TF Designs. She doesn't really sell glitter anymore. This one is Olaf from the Glitter Guy. Yeah, from the Glitter Guy. And this is going to be another chunky. I taped this shut, and so now it's being kind of goofy. Oh, I forgot to clear my sheet. Let me dump this out real quick. And you can also just do an opal base. It doesn't have to be multiples. I just like the dimension of that. So I'm gonna switch out my paper because I am gonna try to put these right back just like they were. So this is our chunky. I'm gonna put this, I can't decide if I want to do, I think I'm just gonna contradict myself and do this right on the edge of this guy. because I kind of want it to be skinny and then chunky, and then skinny and then chunky. What's fun about doing gifts for people is then you can work on things you like to work on, because sometimes when you have orders, they may not give you a chance to work on like the more creative side of what you want to work on, because you're usually completing other things, and a lot of people don't know what you can do because they've never seen some of these things, and so until you get a chance to play around with them, they don't even know that these are options for them. Now, an opal glitter is going to pick up the background. So if we had used like a pink paint, then it would look more pink. Or if we had used like a turquoise background, some people do swirl their backgrounds for an opal background to pick up different colors. This is wasting my glitter. So that's kind of fun. Sorry, it's my dog snoring. And then I'm gonna fill in some of these blanks a little bit. Why not? And then I'll come back to that, but I've got glitter everywhere. The last color I'm gonna use is called the Feels, and this is like a light pink opal color. And this is from Lily's Glitter Shop, which is where I buy a lot of my glitter on a regular basis. So, and I'm kind of deliberately sticking to opals and light colors, because when we do the Milky Way part, which we will do next after this dries, we're going to come in with some pearl colors. We're also going to come in with some like a really bright, like really pretty pink color. We're also going to come in with like some of my micas from Woody's Goodies that are just beautiful. We're going to do some goldish hues, nothing really stark, but we're going to do some pale pinks. We're going to do maybe a little rose gold. So I want to do a nice blend of mostly light colors, but an occasional darker color in there. So this color, as you can see, is a little bit darker, so I'm kind of spreading it out a little bit, so it's not, we're not doing as thick of a chunk perhaps, but it goes really nicely so far with what we're doing. So my plan is that we'll put some of this darker color kind of next to some lighter colors when we bring it in together. I'm also going to do some, I think I mentioned pearl. I'm also going to do, I have this other color, and I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to use it during the second phase and mix it into the epoxy. But it's a really pretty color glitter. If I don't completely space out, I'll show it to you in a minute. I've had it for a long time and I've never used it, so let's see what we have left here. Kind of sprinkle in. That's a beautiful color. I've never used this glitter before. So as you can see, oh my gosh, I totally just messed up and didn't put that glitter away. I wonder if it's too late. And I didn't, it's a dump cup now. The good thing about a dump cup is you can use it for these kinds of cups pretty much any time. Now, like I said, 100% coverage is not necessary because we're going to come back and do some serious damage over this thing. But this right here is beautiful. Even just this as a cup would be beautiful. But we're gonna make it look beautiful. I told somebody in a Tumbler group that I'm in that I would do a tutorial on these because I posted a video, like a little quick video of one that I did, and like that was at Christmas time, so it's really taken me a long time to get this together. So I'm just gonna throw this on the bottom. Now, we obviously have some places where the glitter is sticking up and I still have epoxy all over me. So this is so pretty, y'all. This glitter is so pretty. So I'm gonna get a gloved hand and I'm very carefully going to tap some of that glitter down. And all I'm really doing here is just filling in some of the places where we might be missing some glitter with some of this, the Feels glitter. And this glitter looks really pale pink, but over this opal it kind of looks like a rose gold color. It's so pretty. So, I'm just dusting it in a couple places where I might have patches of stuff. Okay, I think that's enough messing. So that's really all for phase one. I'm going to show you just a little bit how I sometimes pat it down a little bit. I'm going to put some of these away because I would not be surprised if I very easily messed around and knocked one over. I'll find tape for this one in a minute. It's already been opened, evidently. And then I even have a dump cup kind of already here, so I'm gonna either add to that dump cup or maybe I will do that. And I never even used that dump cup, but that's kind of a cool thing is you can, I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is a dump cup I've had from various things that I've done, and I used that one on the first one. It came out really nice. So I might just keep adding to it, I guess, right? I've also done things with my dump cup glitter. I've made jewelry with it. Done a lot of things so it's not wasted. So these are, and it's still in the same color family, so we just added that in there, and now it's just a little lighter. That's cool. So now I'm going to get a glove really quick. And sometimes what I will do is put a little finger cut over my primary finger like this. And the reason for that is because my gloves fit kind of loosely, and that helps me make sure that I'm not actually dragging the glitter onto my glove. So my epoxy's been turning for a little bit, so it should be a little bit firmer. So I'm just around the edges gonna just pat it down a little bit so that all the places that are sticking up may not require so much sanding and all that later on. If it does, no big woo. It just makes it a little easier if you do this the first time. Those are all things I had to learn kind of the hard way when I started doing cups. Is I would just keep putting layers of epoxy on them until it started to cover it, but like, what a waste of time. And then when you start getting your cup orders or you get busy doing other things, the last thing you want is to redo your work all the time. So, and all I'm doing is just the stuff that's hanging over the edge, I'm just tapping the cup and letting it slide back. These are hands down some of my favorite cups because they, you know, sometimes I have a hard time deciding if I want to do glitter, if I want to do mica, if I want to do alcohol inks. But with a cup like this, you can do all of those things if you do them tastefully, and they'll come out really beautiful. And I'm not really worried where you can see a little bit of the edge, because we're going to cover that up. So, or it's going to be covered up enough. Now some people will just grab it and go like that. I'm just afraid my gloves are a little bit too loose. So as it turns and as it's coming over, you can see where it's sticking up. And you can just nail it down. And like I said, if it still sticks up after the second layer, you can sand a couple of those pieces by hand. Because after we do what we're going to do next, if we have a perfectly smooth layer of epoxy, this guy right here is just annoying, then we're going to still need to put a decal on, so it's not like we're going to just get it in 2 coats. Now I did wait a long time to do this, and typically a cup can take a while, and her birthday's next week, so I need to get my life together and get this done. But thankfully, when I use good epoxy, I can usually knock it out in a couple of coats. Worst case scenario, it'll just be late. But now I'm going to stop the turner for a second to get this one stubborn piece. I don't know if you guys can see that on the camera. It's this guy right here. Just not being very cooperative. And you see the gap that I just created? Well, that's okay, because I have a whole bunch of glitter down here. See how that worked out? No problem. That's the other thing. You can also get a little glitter on the end of your finger, and then your fingers aren't going to stick as much when you're patting things down. That coral color is really pretty, but it likes to stick up. See that right there? So that's going to be all for today, and we're going to let this turn overnight, and I'll be back with you. This may be kind of a long video, just heads up, just because we're going to do several different steps and phases. So I know not everybody likes long videos on YouTube. I personally would much rather have the details than have a short video on a tutorial, because that's how I learn. But everybody's different, so if it's too long, of course, just fast forward. No big deal. It's a great opportunity to just kind of see the process and see if it helps you. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow. All right, so we have let our phase 1 sit overnight, and the glitter is dry, the base layer of epoxy is dry, and now we're gonna go ahead and do phase 2. And it's so pretty, like it's really tempting to just leave it like that and decal it, be done, but we want to do a Milky Way, so we're gonna do it. I'll show you the colors. A little unsure if I want to stick to the colors or branch out a little bit, and some of it I won't know until we actually get it kind of on the cup a little bit. So it is really important to have a good base layer of epoxy over your glitter. You wouldn't want to start doing this step before doing another layer of epoxy, or you would really have very little movement. So when you start kind of heating things up, you want them to kind of swirl a little bit on their own, and so you kind of need to have that there. So I hope that you guys have a pretty decent view, And I have already put the epoxy on there. I've already popped the air bubbles. Right now what I'm gonna do is I have picked at least 4 colors that I know I want to use. And, ooh, I just thought of one. Give me 1 second. Maybe a 5th one. The problem with this is, like, you can easily just get overwhelmed with trying to do too many things on one cup. So I know for sure my contrasting color is going to be called Puppy Love by Resin Art. That's kind of what it looks like on the top. This will be the only like darker color, and I'm gonna use Aphrodite's Nighty by Woody's Goodies. This is actually an eco glitter. It's a really pretty pearl pink. Frosty Pearl by Woody's Goodies. You can probably not see that very well, but it's just a legitimate just pearl, not really cream, just pearl. Pink Champagne, which is sort of a rose goldy color by Woody's Goodies. I might use Abalone Shell, which is sort of an iridescent opal color by Colourarte. And I'm probably going to use very little alcohol ink. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of this red one, or the dark pink one. I'm a little bit nervous about using it on this cup, to be honest with you, because I'm afraid it's going to be too drastic, but we're going to see. So, when you do something like that and your cup is mostly light, you kind of just want to put it in very small sections. It's a beautiful color though, look at that. You just want to put it in small sections and surround it with some lighter color, because then you can kind of make it work. So I put very little in there, so it's not overly dark. The next color I know we're probably going to use a generous amount of is this Aphrodite's Nighty, which again is just a beautiful color. So I did not pre-mix these, so I'm just going to do them now. I know it's going to make the video a little bit longer, but I only wanted to go through so many pairs of gloves today. So look at that. That might actually need a little bit more in there too, but for now it's awesome. And I accidentally got some glitter in one of these cups, so I'm going to try to fish it out. It's really not a big deal, so I probably should just leave it alone. So I'm going to mix up some of this pearl color. I'm only using 1 alcohol ink because I don't want a lot of solid color. I really want it to be a super girly cup. I don't want it to be, but a good white alcohol ink kind of creates that milky look that you want. So, and again, it's been a really long time since I did one of these, so. And this is that Frosty Pearl color. See, it's just real subtle. I may not have put enough in there, but I also really love the background of this cup, so it's hard to cover it up when it's so pretty. This Pink Champagne color is like, again, like a rose gold. It will blend really nicely with this glitter right here. And it also gives a little contrast. So this epoxy I'm using is faux Rezin, and it's a little bit thicker, so sometimes you need a little bit more in your cups than you realize. So you kind of do want your kind of marbling type accent colors to be a little bit thicker, for the simple fact that you are I'm not going to want it to be drippy and oozy. I'm going to use Pinata white ink in 1 cup with very little epoxy. And this poor ink has all kinds of other colors on the tip, so it's been used a lot. And it is causing me some trouble because it has other, it seems like it's stuck. Let me go see if I have a new one. I'll be right back. And I cannot use this cup of epoxy because I just got dust in it. Technical difficulties, huh? Be right back. Okay, sorry about that. I do have another one, so really would like to salvage that epoxy. Let's see, it has little specks of something in it now. See if I can get that out. Might be able to. Probably going to add to it anyway. Now, I started off with 1 drop. Might have to add 1 more. And I need to just spread it out a little bit. I'm kind of keeping the white ink on reserve in case I need to mute another color, but see, it's kind of milky. I might add 1 more drop. But then that's it, because I don't really want it to be stark white. So, I'll put that little guy back here. And we may add some other stuff in a minute. I'm kind of thinking about this Avalon shell color. It's really pretty. But let's just kind of see what we see. So I'm really nervous about this color. So I'm gonna put it on the edge of, let's say, like that. I'm gonna have to put a little more epoxy in that. Can't even really get it to streak. Okay. I'm not trying to put it in a full line yet because I want to see how it's going to blend. So I just kind of want to put it in some random places. It's beautiful. It's a little more translucent than it probably would be if I hadn't mixed it so lightly. But again, we didn't want it to be so drastically dark that it really took away from the cup. It's a pretty color. So next to a really dark color like that, I'm probably going to want to put something a little bit lighter, you know. So, sometimes I overthink this and waste too much time. So I think the key when you're dealing with a contrasting color is don't get too much stuff on your popsicle stick when you're spreading, because then it's going to be really difficult for you to control it. Now, if you don't mind if it's big, thick chunks, some Milky Way cups turn out beautiful like that. I'm going to kind of get some on the bottom on purpose. But in this case, I really kind of want to hone in on it being an accent color without it being the color that completely takes over. I'm going to stretch that out a little bit, and then I'm going to leave a little bit here. Now next to that, I'm going to put a little bit of this pearl color. Looks like we need a little bit more epoxy. I will say that this is an entire ounce, well, 2 ounces really, of part A and part B combined. So with this type of cup, you will probably use a lot more epoxy just because it thickens up when you add your powders to it. And so I have in the past maybe not mixed up enough and then had to really stretch it out. I just got ink in here. Now my thought is that this will mix a little bit with this, but again, it doesn't have to be super uniform either, so we can start to incorporate this color in more places than just that. But the cool thing is that that will cause it to blend a little bit. And I don't want to completely shut down the background colors. Let's put this to the side for now. Let's bring in some Aphrodite's Nighty. Like that. Like that. This is blending a lot with the opals in the background. It's hard to see where I put it. I'm feeling we're going to end up using more of that dark pink color than we originally planned. You see, this is pretty soft at this point. We're not, you know, doing huge zebra stripes or anything. So let's add some of the pink champagne, which is like a rose gold. I'm probably going to separate that from the darker color, because again, this is kind of a contrast color. I have mixed these so they're not super opaque on purpose, so that they blend really well. But the darker colors, I've kind of kept them thick so I can control them. See how pretty? Put that next to that pearl color. And then maybe a little bit of this action. I do need to get some of these colors to flow on the bottom of the cup, and that will happen naturally, but I am going to separate these colors a little bit. So that we have a little bit more streaking of the contrasting colors. But so far, kind of digging it. Again, this is going to be a long video, so if you don't want to see me play around do this, you can certainly speed up. I'm just not going to take off gloves and keep burning through materials just to hyperlapse and all that. I am somebody who learns from the process when everybody walks you through it, the whole thing, so that's my goal here. So, but it will not hurt my feelings if it's too long for you. So at this point, I actually think we're going to add probably a little bit more of that pink color in, but let's add a little bit more of this Frosty color, maybe in some longer streaks. And I like this because I really didn't want to completely cover up the background. So far we're not. I'm afraid to get a little too wild with this pink color, but I am going to add a little bit more of it. Just in small spaces. Even more stringy maybe this time. I was really nervous about adding it, but I really like it. See, I messed it up right there. That's okay. We'll fix it. See, just little streaks. I really pondered leaving it out because I was afraid it would be too much, but I really think it adds a lot. Especially when you can kind of streak it here and there. So I would love to hear what you guys think in the comments. If you have ideas of colors that you'd like to see kind of marbled on a tumbler like this, I'd love to hear your ideas. I really like to do these. I have a cup I'm gonna do like a makeover on that was supposed to be like a glitter swirl, and it didn't quite turn out the way I had in mind, and I was gonna re-glitter it, and then I was like, why re-glitter it when you could turn it into a Milky Way? So it's kind of a mixture of background colors and chunky and fine glitter, so it's kind of perfect for this. And so I was like, I think I will do it like a blue and teal Milky Way, like a cup makeover. So I'm gonna probably record that and share it with you guys, my cup makeover journey. But if you have colors that you think would look super cool swirled together, and I would love to hear your feedback because I really like to do these cups. And so we're almost out of that. Let's throw in a little bit of the white and see how we do, huh? Just a little bit. We want the white to be really thin because I don't really want huge blocks of like an opaque white color. Keep in mind, these are all real uniform looking right now, but we're going to hit it with some heat in a minute, and then it's going to start to move around. So we don't want it to get too involved because then we may have too much stuff moving around. And what's cool about these is you can hit it with a little bit of heat, see what you're thinking, see how it's looking, and then come back and revisit it. So I think that's what we're going to do now because we still have a little bit of mica left. So the key is you really don't want to get it too hot. You don't want your epoxy to get runny. You just want this to move a little bit. So just a little bit at a time. Just a little bit. And then take a step back. Let it turn a little bit. It will swirl a little bit more, so we're going to lose a little bit of that zebra stuff, and some of it's going to swirl into the other. So now if we're smart, we're not going to keep torching too much. We're going to let it do its thing a little bit. I'm kind of reserving a little bit in the cups in case it starts to do crazy things that we need to kind of like break it up. Now, I can tell by the epoxy turning that it's warm, and so we don't want to keep torching right now because it'll start to roll and drip. That's not what you want. My dog is dreaming. So now we're going to just kind of blend in with some pearl where we see the need to kind of stretch it out a little bit. Like I streaked that right there. I don't particularly want to leave that like that. And you see we didn't use a whole lot of white. That's kind of intentional. The bottom, keep in mind, we only used one opal glitter, so I do want some of this to carry over to the bottom. Let's use some more Aphrodite's Nighty because it kind of matches the background a little bit. And so see, some of it's moving into the other color. And it'll happen really subtly. You may not see it happen while you're torching, so don't get too torch crazy and completely turn it into an epoxy swirl because that's not what we're after. We're not after a full-blown swirl. We're after a little bit more of a marble effect. So, but you know, if it becomes an epoxy swirl, that's not the end of the world either. Those are beautiful, and a lot of my cups start off not being one and then kind of turn into one. But this, I think, is a beautiful cup. I think my niece will love it. It's going to be very girly, which is awesome. I have an idea to do one in like deep purple and gold. I was looking at some resin pigments the other day and I was thinking that would be super cool on a marble tumbler. I happened to be doing a leopard thing and I was thinking I don't really want to put leopard on there, but it would be pretty like that. I was thinking how cool it would be to take a like a skinny tumbler or something and do like champagne gold, a little bit of regular gold, like deep purples, and maybe even an espresso brown, and then doing kind of a Milky Way with pigments of gold and some resin purple tints, maybe even a little pink, but not like a, maybe not like this pink. Well, if it was on a dark background, it might look really cool. So it's an idea that I have. So some of these where they're kind of pulling away from the edge, I'm just gonna connect them. And I know it's gonna cause a little drip on the edge. That's fine, I'll sand that off, no big deal. I also need to connect some things down here on the bottom, so it's going to be where I I'm kind of wishing I had put some other color glitter on the bottom, but it's the bottom, so I'm not super worried about it. All right, now I'm going to very gently hit it with just a little bit more heat. Actually, I'm going to swirl the bottom a little bit. See, the epoxy is pretty solid at this point. So our ability to keep making it work, we're running out of some time here. But the good thing is once it's on the cup, if you want to streak it some more, you can do that. You can run a popsicle stick through it. You can hit it with a little bit of heat, but you just have to be careful to not overheat it so it becomes runny, especially once your epoxy starts setting, because it's going to get kind of sludgy, and that's not really what you want. You don't really want it to be sludgy. And I'm just trying to connect dots here with the little bit that we've got left. Don't want it to be too uniform, but I kind of want it to have a similar flow. And there we go. Because we're going to hit it with some heat again, and it's going to start to kind of flow, and it won't be so straight or diagonal. It'll be a little more broken up. Again, where it pulls away from the edge, I just like to connect it a little bit. It may not stay, but it's worth a shot. These are kind of therapeutic to watch how they evolve. All right, so that is pretty much used up. Okay. I need to chill for a second. Not get too crazy. See how it turns. See how it's there? I mean, it's really subtle. It's very slightly starting to run a little bit more this way. So it's kind of what we want. We don't want it to start dripping, because then you kind of lose the little bit of control you have over the direction it goes. Okay, so now I'm just going to blend around some of these darker places again. and blend a little on the bottom on purpose. This is Aphrodite's Nighty. And this is a beautiful cup, y'all. I really think it's going to turn out lovely. And a little bit of Aphrodite's Nighty on the bottom kind of brings out some of those colors. Okay. I'm going to bring in some more of the rose goldish color. Probably next to some of this now. I want to put some of it on the bottom because, again, the bottom is mostly white opal. So this will bring in some of those colors we used together. Then we'll stop and hit it with a little more heat because some of these epoxies also need to smooth out and become one with the bottom, or they're not going to be as level looking. But I love how we can still see all of the glitter on the bottom to some degree, which I was afraid to hide it because it's so pretty. Let's make some connections on the top here. It's actually doing pretty well. All right. Oops, I touched the cup with my gloves. Oops, oops, oops. Trying to not leave any bald spots. All right, let's hit it with a little bit of heat. Not too much. Okay. Gonna have to fix where I just meddled with that. Because of the nature of how you're designing these cups, your epoxy can make your cup very lumpy. So it's good to do this every so often so that you don't get big peaks of epoxy. Epoxy is self-leveling, but once it gets a certain amount of thick and heated, it starts to cure. So you do kind of want to do this every so often so that you don't have like lumps in your epoxy. Like I can tell on the bottom, you can't see that from here. It wants to run a little bit, and we really don't want that because it will make it streak. So I'm trying to ignore my impulse to keep hitting it with heat and see if I can't fix where I bumped the cup. Which seems like it's about right there because it wants to run and we don't really want it to run at this point, but the epoxy is thickening up. So let's add some pearl wherever we think we might want to put some and kind of start to wrap it up. Now if you notice that it's streaking too much or you have too much in one spot, you can thin it out really quick by just running a popsicle stick through it, and then give it a minute and hit it with some heat again. But you just don't want to wait too long because then it does kind of get stiff, and the epoxy in the cup is stiff and the epoxy is starting to cure, not like where you can't fix it, but it's thickening on the cup. So I don't really know that we need to add any more alcohol ink. I feel like we have a pretty good amount. If anything, I might put like a light streak, but I don't really feel like it's adding much value at this point. So so now there's definitely some spots on the top that are starting to create peaks. That's why I kind of did that, but now it's turning a little bit more than I want. So I'm just gonna try to take it really easy and just be patient and let it kind of navigate. Worst case scenario, it's gonna pull and ripple a little bit more, like that. It's not terrible, but not preferred. Again, we're still at the point where we can probably somewhat fix that if it does that. But I would prefer it be kind of like it is, not too wavy. But what happens, like this is a homemade turner and it's worked great for a really long time, but like I've put some really heavy cups on here, and at some point, like it may not be perfectly level, and so the epoxy kind of pulls away from the edge a little bit, and sometimes on the bottom, and so that's why sometimes so I have it propped up right now on the bottom so that we could get good coverage on the bottom. So if I take that down for just a little bit, that actually may help when we turn it, not doing that so easily. So yes, we're popping bubbles, of course, but for the most part, we're natural movement that we want it to do on its own. And it will do it. It's just, you don't want to help it too much too soon. So anyway, I know this is like a super long video. So after this step, after it continues to do this, we're gonna let it cure overnight. If we have a good smooth finish, then we'll decal it and just put a final coat of epoxy on it. So for all intents and purposes of the tutorial, unless you guys just want to see the decal process, this is pretty much it. But it's a beautiful cup, as you can see. It has just a lot of facets and dimensions to it. We didn't completely cover up the beautiful opal glitter, which is exactly what we wanted. We didn't want to cover that up entirely. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. You kind of get the marble milky look, and you kind of get the opal look underneath. I can see some places where my epoxy is more shallow than others. But I know this is making this longer, but you can see where now this is starting to move and blend. You see this right here? And this right here? You want a little bit of that. You just don't want it to start dripping and coming over here. At least I don't. It will still be beautiful no matter what, but we don't want it to completely lose all its structure as it's spinning. So even like right here, you can kind of help it to not go too crazy and not have too much in one spot. You're just running your popsicle stick through it. Keep it wispy, you know? You can even run it this way. Don't worry about that epoxy, I'll get it out of there. So see how pretty? So you can even kind of stretch it to go the opposite way so that when you hit it with heat, it's got some place to go. And if you want it to look wispier in some places, you can come in and do that. You know, I kind of like the multiple different size look. Because I think that adds to the character of the cup, like this. I think that's cool. And then we have some wispies, and then we have some places where it mixes with the colors next to it. I think that looks super cool. So I'm just gonna do a little bit. You don't want to overheat one section too much over another section, because epoxy is self-leveling. So if it's like thick on one end and not on the other end, it's gonna create mounds. So that's why you just want to do a little bit at a time. Let it turn a little bit, and then let it level out a little bit. Let it kind of start to level with the other pieces, and do it again. You can see a place on the bottom that's kind of shallow. So I'm gonna, sometimes chunky glitter and epoxy don't get along too well. So I can tell that the bottom is kind of hardening already. So I just have to be careful. I can still see where that spot is. It's driving me crazy. Right here. I think I fixed the wrong spot is what happened. See, it's right there. It's driving me nuts. I mean, I can fix it with the top layer. I just kind of want to fix it now. Because again, her birthday's next week, so I don't want to leave a lot of detail for later. Pretty happy with it. So all I'm really doing now is making sure that it's continuing to smooth out. And just fixing things as they start to run a little bit. And that'll be it. So would love it if you leave a comment and let me know what you think. Let me know if this tutorial is helpful. Again, I really like doing these, so if there's a different color scheme you'd like to see, let us know in the comments. I also plan, like I said, to do a makeover on one of my existing cups fairly soon. I would show you, but I have junk on my hands. And so please like and subscribe so you don't miss out on that. You can follow us on social media. Our Facebook and Instagram are both in the description box below, which is under that little triangle arrow. We also do fluid art, resin art, pretty multimedia in that regard. We are also going to be doing an online art auction soon on our Facebook page for Hope Designs SAT, and I have a lot of kind of earlier pieces that we need to make room in our home, because I thought we would be doing more shows and stuff this year. With Corona, we haven't really been doing those, so we will be having some kind of sale, kind of first come first serve online auctions in the next week or two. I was gonna go with a Christmas and July theme, but July ends next week, so I don't know if I can pull it together quite that soon. We'll probably do a couple of those, so please stay connected with us on social media so that you don't miss out on those things. As I mentioned, we do custom tumblers, so we certainly can be commissioned to do a tumbler for you. If you would like one, please reach out to us via direct message on our social media links, or I will link our Hope Designs Gmail, which is hopedesignssat@gmail.com, in our description box, and either myself or my husband will get back to you. It just helps me to know kind of what you have in mind. You know, we do everything from glitter tumblers to alcohol inks, wood grain. Obviously this is a great example of a fun one. So we're pretty flexible. If we don't think that we can do it, or it's not really in our niche, then I'll just tell you. A lot of people ask if we have an Etsy store. Have one, but we don't have anything listed in it yet. So that's kind of on the to-do list once we do the social media auction. There's PayPal links below if you would like to support our channel, support supplies for continued tutorials. That link is below. Other than that, I hope that you enjoyed this. I think the cup turned out beautiful. It probably will continue to change a little bit. We will post the finished product on our social media once it's finished. And again, I would love to hear your feedback about future cups that you'd like to see, similar to this or different, or other tutorials that you would like to see. We do have a few tumbler tutorials on our channel. So again, a great reason to subscribe, go through our videos. Some of our video quality has changed over the time. When we first started our YouTube channel, we were using really old phones, so please forgive us with the quality changes. But again, I really hope that you enjoyed this. I think it turned out beautiful. This is exactly what I had in mind, and that very rarely happens. So we're just going to let it continue to move around a little bit. We'll level out our epoxy, and then tomorrow I will come back and decal it. Again, this video is already too long, so I'm not going to do that on YouTube, but I will post the finished product. So if you have any questions, certainly let us know. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.